welcome back to the Compliance Kitchen podcast. This is Sylvia, and in this episode, we will take a look at another DOJ enforcement action. This is in regards to a provision of hacking related services. So on September 14th, the DOJ issued a press release in regards to a DPA or Deferred Prosecution Agreement that was entered into by former employees of the U.S. intelligence community or the U.S. military. The DPA restricts their future activities and employment and requires the payment of $1,685,000 in penalties to resolve a DOJ investigation regarding violations of U.S. export control, computer fraud, and access device fraud laws. So per the DOJ release, a little bit more detail, according to the court documents between 2016 and 2019, the defendants, Mark Bayer, Ryan Adams, and a former U.S. citizen, Daniel Gericke, worked as senior managers at a United Arab Emirates-based company, we can call it UAE Co., that supported and carried out computer network exploitation or CNE operations, which is just another name for hacking, for the benefits of the UAE government. Now, despite being informed that their work under the ITAR constituted a defense service that requires a license from the State Department's Directorate of Defense Trade Controls, or DDTC, the defendants continued with their services without a license. So the release explains that these services included the provision of support, direction, and supervision in the creation of sophisticated so-called zero-click computer hacking and intelligence gathering systems, meaning ones that could compromise a device without any action by the target. The UAE Co., which was the company that was employing the defendants, and their employees leveraged these zero-click exploits to illegally obtain and use access credentials for various online accounts that were issued by U.S. companies, and then to obtain unauthorized access to computers, mobile phones around the world, including in the United States. And the release tells us that the defendants were aware of this activity by the UAE Co. So, kind of looking a little bit more at the background of where this started. So after leaving the U.S. government employment, the defendants, Bayer, Adams, and Gericke, worked for a U.S. company, let's call it U.S. Company 1, that provided cyber services to a UAE government agency. But this was done in compliance with ITAR, pursuant to a DDTC-issued Technical Assistance Agreement, or TAA, that was signed by the U.S. Company 1, the UAE government, and its relevant intelligence agency. So this was done legally. Now, the defendants were employed at this U.S. Company 1, and they received periodic ITAR and TAA training, and U.S. Company 1 repeatedly informed its employees that these services constituted defense services under ITAR, and that a U.S. person had to first obtain a TAA, or the Technical Assistance Agreement, before providing such services to UAE Co. So, again, this was done according to the law. They had the TAA agreement in place, U.S. Company 1, when they were providing services to UAE Co. Now, the defendants later exited U.S. Company 1. They went to work for UAE Co. for basically their customer. They were inside a team that was known as Cyber Intelligence Operations, or CIO, and after joining, the defendants sought continued access to U.S. Company 1's ITAR-controlled information, which was, of course, in violation of the TAA and also ITAR. So while with the new employer, UAE Co., defendant support, direction, and supervision led to the creation of two so-called zero-click computer hacking and intelligence gathering systems that leveraged servers in the U.S. Belonging to a U.S. technology company, let's call it U.S. Company 2, to obtain remote unauthorized access to tens of millions of smartphones, mobile devices, and such that are using a U.S. Company 2 provided operating system. The defendants and other employees of the CIO, or the Cyber Intelligence Operations team inside UAE Co., colloquially referred to these two systems as Karma and Karma 2. Now, the CIO employees, which is against the cyber unit inside the UAE Co., use the Karma systems to obtain, of course without authorization, login credentials and other authentication tokens, and then they use this information to log into targets' accounts to steal data, including from servers within the US. So now going back to the DPA, the defendants agreed to pay $750,000, $600,000, $335,000 over a 3-year term. They also agreed to full cooperation with the relevant department and FBI components, and to the immediate relinquishment and ban of any foreign or U.S. security clearances, and also certain future employment restrictions. So again, this is a summary, but if you guys want to take a closer look at the press release from the DOJ, also the DPA, I have links to all that on compliancekitchen.com.